How do you find wellness in the middle of being diagnosed with a disease? Hi, friends. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jessica, and I engage in conversations about weight loss, weight related disease education, and how to achieve weight loss in an affordable way that honors your way of living. So, I wanted to have this discussion for a really long time. I think that I have not known really how to communicate or how to reflect upon this very subject. How do we find wellness in the midst of, for example, being diagnosed with diabetes or being diagnosed with heart failure, COPD, one of those chronic diseases that unfortunately at the end will turn out to take a toll to our bodies. And as we all know, as soon as your body takes a toll, your also mental health does. It just doesn't take, I can, go online and quote you research and all that stuff, which I have done in the past, but I think that what I wanted to do is more have a reflection and more of a one-on-one, trying to figure out how do we, right in the midst of being diagnosed with something that really alternately does alter our lives or impacts in some way. Now with, when you're feeling unwell, you're not able to do things that you enjoy. You're not able to engage with your friends. You're not able to go on outings. You're not able to do things. Again, that affects your life. So I was having a conversation with my 14-year-old, and one of the things that we were just shooting the shit, and we were talking about how upon reflection, when I was a visiting nurse, and I used to visit my kids that had diabetes, they were always teaching me things, specifically how to use their machine and how to actually calculate their carbs and what goes where. Very, very keen and very, very fast. They knew exactly how their glucose little apparatus. I've been out of the visiting nurse sector for a long time, and how their little apparatus worked. And it was just more of a wellness visit than anything else. But interestingly enough, they engaged in their lives while having this diagnosis. So it was part of them, but it wasn't their whole life. And I have also been in a position where I've been the nurse of people that have been diagnosed with diabetes when they were older. Specifically, when you're 70s, 80s, and then you're being diagnosed with these, and such an emotional toll. Of course, it now takes the fact that they have to learn how to inject their insulin, they have to add medications. Your cognition is not as you're not as sharp as you. It just really, if you add something complicated like a sliding scale, which I'm not gonna get into, but meaning that you have, depending on your blood glucose, you have to adjust your insulin. The actual repercussions of all that takes such a toll that it affects your wellness. So that's where I kind of wanted to have a discussion about how do we find wellness in the midst of these types of diagnoses that affect your life. Now, do I know the answer straight out? No, but what I think that what I try or attempt to do when I do see my patients in such a in this difficulty, I think that my goal is basically to sort of have a conversation about, well, what's happening in the present versus what's happening, right, what the repercussions are, because those are two different things. I think that when we when we get diagnosed with this grievous these uh, diseases, we tend to think, oh, what's going to happen in the future? Well, nobody knows. But what I hope with my services, including with the weight loss endeavor, is to bring people to the present. Is what can I do today to add to my wellness? Can I go to sleep or get sleep? Can I, eat well? Can I do physical activity? Absolutely. And that's basically the reason why I engage. But mainly is, how do we find joy in the midst of these, in the midst of suffering? How do we do that? Right? And now, nobody is the judge of what is suffering or what is not suffering. Like I gave you the example of the child with diabetes versus the older person with diabetes. The child with diabetes not suffering, he might have at some point, specifically when it comes to just when diagnosis occurs. But when they actually, because I don't know that they actually know exactly, they don't equate, they live so in the present that their main business or their main inner workers is, how do I deal with today? And I think that maybe there is value in actually having that approach. How do I add value to me in the present? Now, if we're gonna now flip to weight loss, I think that a lot of the times the reason why the weight loss is also very hard is because we always, while we live in the present, we see that mountain of the future and how much it has to be, what a elephant it is to actually lose, for example, like me, 100 pounds. For me, I think it was 1 pound at a time, and not necessarily focusing on the pounds, right? But I think, again, present, how do I find wellness? How do I find happiness in the present, doing what I'm doing? Because what I'm doing won't change, right? So, but I need to find perspective. Similarly, let's go back to the disease. You are absolutely not responsible for the fact that you were diagnosed with something that was grievous, right? Nobody does. Nobody goes there and says, hey, I want to buy that diabetes. No, not at all. What you are hoping here is, in spite of those diagnoses, that you find some value, and you can manage it, and you can you can live with it, because nobody here is in charge of how long you'll have, but you can definitely add a lot of value and function. And in terms of what wellness looks like to you, that's something that you need to find out. Massage therapy, talking to somebody, enjoying moments with your kids, engaging in your work, and and actually refocusing each and every day. Now, in terms of interestingly enough, I think that once you sort of do a little bit of a shift in your mindset, and I know it's not easy, but trying if I can go back and say, when it's intentional that you do it, then it becomes less work.